Commander Voss Talon stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Council's primary war station, staring at the empty coordinates where Earth's entire military fleet had last been spotted. 10 years. 10 long, confusing, absolutely baffling years of silence. Still nothing? Asked Captain Riomar, his second in command. She was a Kelvar, blue-skinned with 4 arms, and right now all 4 of those arms were crossed in irritation. Nothing, Voss confirmed, his 3 eyes narrowing. Not a single transmission. Not one ship. It's like they just vanished. Rhys snorted. Good riddance, if you ask me. Humans were always trouble. Voss turned to look at her, his mandibles clicking in amusement. Trouble? That's putting it mildly. They started 3 wars in their first decade of joining the Council. 4, re-corrected. Everyone forgets about the pastry incident. That wasn't a war. Tell that to the Phyrexian ambassador. He still can't eat cake without having flashbacks. Voss couldn't help but laugh. Humans, crazy, unpredictable, absolutely insane humans. When they'd first made contact with the Galactic Council 15 years ago, everyone thought it would be a simple integration. Just another species joining the cosmic community. Standard procedure. Boring even. How wrong they'd been. The humans had arrived in ships that looked like they'd been assembled by blind engineers having a collective mental breakdown. Symmetrical. Ugly. Completely lacking in the elegant design that every other species prided themselves on. And yet, somehow, those hideous vessels worked. They worked really, really well. Sir, called out Lieutenant Pax Denna from the communications station. We are getting a priority alert from the Outer Rim. What now? Voss sighed, walking over to the console. Don't tell me the Kiksari are attacking the mining colonies again. Pax shook his head, his antennae twitching nervously. No, sir. Well, you should see this yourself. The main display flickered to life, showing a grainy feed from a remote sensor array stationed at the edge of Council space. At first, Voss couldn't make sense of what he was seeing. Just darkness. Empty space. The usual cosmic nothing. Then he saw it. A ship. No, not just a ship. A fleet. A massive, impossibly large fleet moving in perfect formation through the void. By the 3 moons, Rhys whispered. Is that? Yeah, Voss said quietly. That's them. The human fleet had returned. But something was different. These weren't the same ramshackle vessels that had disappeared a decade ago. These ships were sleek, polished, moving with a precision that made Voss's scales itch. They were still ugly in that distinctly human way, but now that ugliness had purpose, intent. Like someone had taken chaos and taught it to march in formation. How many ships are we looking at? Voss demanded. Pax's fingers flew over his console. Computer is still counting, sir. Current estimate is 2,347 vessels. And counting. The bridge went silent. 2,000 ships. The entire Council fleet, combining all member species, numbered just under 800. Get me a direct line to High Chancellor Brix, right now, Voss barked. 3 minutes later, the wrinkled face of Chancellor Brix appeared on the screen. The old Thernian looked tired, his 6 eyes drooping with exhaustion. Commander Talon, Brix said slowly, I assume you are calling about our visitors? Visitors? Voss couldn't keep the sarcasm out of his voice. That's an interesting way to describe an invasion force, Chancellor. We don't know that it's an invasion force. They disappeared for 10 years. 10 years without a word. And now they show up with enough firepower to glass half the galaxy? What else would you call it? Brix sighed, a sound like wind through dead leaves. I would call it a diplomatic opportunity, one that requires careful handling. I'm authorizing you to make first contact, Commander. But Voss, try not to start a war. We have had quite enough of those already. The transmission ended, leaving Voss staring at the screen with his mouth hanging open. Did he just, Rhys began, tell you to talk to the humans? The species that once declared war because someone mispronounced their planet's name? Yes, Voss said flatly. Yes, he did. Pax. Open a channel to the human fleet. Wide broadcast. Let's see if anyone's home. Static filled the bridge for a moment. Then, cutting through the noise, a voice. Human. Female. Calm as ice water. This is Admiral Kira Voles of the Terran Expeditionary Force. We read you loud and clear, Council Station Omega. Permission to approach? Voss exchanged glances with Ree. Admiral? The humans had never used that rank before. They'd always been so informal, calling their military leaders things like chief, boss, or in one memorable case, head honcho. Admiral Voles, Voss said carefully, this is Commander Voss Talon. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome your return. Though I must admit, we are all very curious about where you have been. A pause. Then, was that laughter? Oh, Commander, Admiral Voles replied, and yes, she was definitely amused. We have been busy. Very, very busy. Would you mind if we parked our fleet nearby? We have so much to tell you. So very much. Something about her tone made Voss's blood run cold. Of course, he said. You are cleared for approach Vector 7. But, Admiral, before you dock, I have to ask. Where did you go? Why did you disappear? Another pause, longer this time. We went home, Commander. We went home to prepare. Prepare for what? For war. But don't worry, not with you. We learned our lesson about picking fights with the Council. No, we have been preparing for something much, much worse. The transmission cut off, leaving Voss standing in stunned silence. Did she just say, Ree began slowly, that they have been preparing for war? For 10 years? Against something worse than the entire Galactic Council? Yes, Voss confirmed. I believe she did. Pax, get me every intelligence officer we have. I want to know what the humans have been doing for the past decade. Every scrap of data, every rumor, every wild theory. I want it all, and I want it now. The next 6 hours were a blur of activity. The human fleet took up position in orbit around Station Omega, their ships maintaining perfect formation. Not a single vessel out of place. It was unnerving, watching that much organization from a species that had once shown up to a peace summit wearing mismatched uniforms because they couldn't agree on what color looked best. Voss reviewed the intelligence reports that Pax had compiled. Most of it was useless. Rumors, speculation. But a few things stood out. 10 years ago, right before they vanished, the humans had intercepted a strange signal from beyond Council space. Something old. Something powerful. Something that had scared them enough to pull every single military asset back to Earth without explanation. There were reports of massive construction projects in the Sol system, orbital shipyards operating at impossible capacity, resource extraction from asteroids, moons, and even gas giants, all being funneled into the construction of new vessels. And then there was the really disturbing part. According to the few long-range scans that had managed to peek into human territory, Earth itself had changed. The planet was now surrounded by a network of defense platforms so dense that it looked like a shell of metal and weapons. 14 moons where there had been one. Except they weren't moons at all. They were battle stations, each one the size of a small planet. Sir, Ree said quietly, reading over his shoulder. Are we looking at the same species that once tried to use pizza as a diplomatic gift? Apparently, Voss muttered. Apparently not. People change, I suppose. Especially when they are scared. Scared of what, though? That was the question, wasn't it? A chime from the communications console interrupted his thoughts. Sir, Pax called out. Admiral Voles is requesting permission to come aboard. She wants to address the Council directly. Voss's mandibles clicked nervously. Just her? Or is she bringing an army? Just her and 2 guards, sir. They are in a small shuttle, already approaching the docking bay. Fine. Tell her we will meet her in conference room 7. And Pax. Make sure security is on high alert. I don't trust this. 20 minutes later, Voss found himself sitting across a table from Admiral Kira Vols, and he had to admit the woman was intimidating. She was tall, even for a human, with short dark hair streaked with gray and eyes that seemed to look right through him. Her uniform was crisp, military precise, with medals and insignia he didn't recognize. Her two guards stood behind her, silent as statues. They wore armor that seemed to absorb light, making them look like holes cut in reality. "Commander Talon," Admiral Vols said, offering a slight smile. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." "Admiral," Voss replied carefully, "you have certainly made quite an entrance. 2,000 ships is hard to ignore. 2,783, actually. We picked up a few more on the way here." "On the way from where?" Vols leaned back in her chair, that smile never quite reaching her eyes. "From the edge of the galaxy. From places you have never been. From dark spaces between the stars where things sleep and wait and dream of conquest." Ree, sitting beside Voss, let out a nervous laugh. "That sounds ominous." "It should," Vols said flatly. "Because it is. Tell me, Commander, has the Council ever wondered what's beyond the frontier zone? Past the edge of explored space?" Voss felt his scales prickle. "The frontier is off limits. Council law explicitly forbids exploration beyond the designated boundaries. It's too dangerous." "Too dangerous," Vols repeated, as if tasting the words. Yes, it is. The Council made that law 4,000 years ago, correct? After the Third Expansion War? Yes. Thousands of ships were lost. Entire fleets vanished without a trace. The Council decided that discretion was the better part of valor. "Cowardice," Vols said simply. "The Council chose cowardice over curiosity." "But can't say I blame you, really. Sometimes it's better not to know what's lurking in the dark." Voss felt his temper rising. "Admiral, I didn't invite you here to be insulted. If you have something to say, say it." Vols's expression hardened. "Fine. 10 years ago we intercepted a transmission. But it was old, Commander. Older than your Council. Older than most of the civilizations in this galaxy. It was a warning." "A warning about what?" "About them. About the Devourers. About the things that live in the spaces between galaxies, waiting for young civilizations to grow plump and juicy before they come to feed." The room went very, very quiet. "You are joking," Ree said weakly. "Do I look like I'm joking, Captain?" Vols asked, her voice cold as vacuum. "The transmission was a distress call from a civilization that existed 3 million years ago. They called themselves the Architects. Ring any bells?" Voss felt his 3 hearts skip a beat. The Architects. Every species in the Council knew the stories. The ancient ruins found on dead worlds. The technology so advanced it might as well be magic. The mysterious disappearance of an entire galactic civilization, leaving nothing behind but empty cities and unanswered questions. "The Architects," Voss said slowly, "are a myth. A legend." "Really?" Vols pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. A hologram flickered to life, showing a planet. A beautiful planet, covered in cities that stretched from pole to pole. Then the image changed. The cities were burning. The planet was dying. And in the darkness of space around it, things moved. Massive, writhing shadows that blocked out the stars. "This is what the Architects sent out," Vols continued. "Their final message. A warning to anyone who might come after them. Beware the Devourers. They sleep for millennia, but when they wake, they consume everything. Life. Energy. Matter. Entire civilizations gone in a matter of days." Voss stared at the hologram, feeling sick. Why didn't the Council know about this? "Because the transmission was encoded in a way that only humans could decipher," Vols said. "Pure mathematical language, based on prime numbers and fundamental constants. We spent 6 months translating it. And when we understood what it was saying, we made a decision." "To run home and hide?" Ree asked. Volz's eyes flashed with anger. To prepare. We knew the council wouldn't believe us. Hell, half of our own people didn't believe us at first. But we couldn't take that risk. So we went home. We pulled every resource we had. We built ships. We built weapons. We turned our entire civilization into a war machine for an enemy that might not even exist, Voss pointed out. Might not have existed, Volz corrected. Past tense. Because 3 days ago our deep space sensors detected something. A massive energy signature moving through the void beyond the frontier. It matches the pattern described in the architect's message. Voss felt cold dread settling in his stomach. How big? Big enough to swallow your son, Commander. And it's headed this way. ETA, approximately 2 months. The silence that followed was broken only by the hum of the station's life support systems. This is insane, Ree whispered. You are telling us that some ancient alien horror is about to attack the galaxy, and the only defense we have is a human fleet that's been off playing soldier for a decade. Not quite, Volz said, and for the first time she smiled. A real smile, one that was absolutely terrifying. You also have the knowledge we gained, the technology we developed, the weapons we built. And most importantly, you have something the Devourers have never encountered before. What's that? Voss asked. Humans who are really angry. See, Commander, we did a lot of research over the past 10 years. We studied the architects. We analyzed their technology. And we found something interesting. The Devourers aren't invincible. They are powerful, yes. Ancient. Ancient, certainly. But they are not gods. They can be hurt. They can be killed. It just takes the right weapons. And the right amount of crazy determination. Voss looked at the Admiral, at her confident smile, at the absolute certainty in her eyes, and he realized something. The humans weren't scared anymore. They were ready. What do you need from us? Voss asked quietly. Everything, Volz replied. Every ship. Every weapon. Every soldier. We need the Council fleet to mobilize immediately. We need your manufacturing capacity. We need your scientists. Because in 2 months, the Devourers will arrive. And when they do, we are going to give them the fight of their very long lives. Ree laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. You want us to go to war? Based on a 10-year-old transmission and a mysterious energy signature. Do you have any idea how insane that sounds? Yes, Volz said calmly. But here's the thing, Captain. I don't actually need you to believe me. In about 6 hours, the Council's own deep space sensors are going to pick up what we have been tracking. You will see it for yourselves, and then you will have a choice. You can either work with us and maybe, just maybe, survive what's coming, or you can sit here debating whether it's real while the Devourers eat your entire civilization for breakfast. She stood up, her guards moving with her. I will be on my flagship if you need me, Volz continued. But, Commander? Don't take too long to decide. The clock is ticking, and out there in the dark, something very old and very hungry is waking up. It's been waiting a long time for its next meal. Let's make sure we give it indigestion. With that, she turned and walked out of the conference room, leaving Voss and Ree staring at each other in stunned silence. She's bluffing, Ree said finally. She has to be. There's no way any of this is real? Maybe, Voss agreed. But what if she's not? What if everything she just said is true? Then we are all dead anyway, so what does it matter? Voss thought about that. About the human fleet silent for 10 years. About the desperate preparation. About the absolute conviction in Admiral Volz's eyes. But it matters, he said quietly, because if the humans spent a decade getting ready for this, and if they think they can actually win, then maybe we have a chance. A small one, but a chance nonetheless. 6 hours later, alarms began blaring throughout Station Omega. Voss ran to the command center, where Pax was frantically working at his console, his antennae quivering with panic. Report, Voss demanded, Sir, the deep space sensors just detected an anomaly, exactly where Admiral Voles said it would be. It's massive. It's moving. And sir, it's accelerating. The main display lit up, showing the sensor data, and there it was. A dark spot in space, like a hole in reality itself. It was hard to look at, hard to focus on, as if the eye wanted to slide away from it. But it was there. It was real. And it was coming. "Get me the Chancellor," Voss said, his voice barely above a whisper. "And get me Admiral Voles. It looks like we are going to war after all." Ree moved to stand beside him, all four of her arms trembling slightly. "We are really doing this?" she asked. "We are really going to fight some ancient cosmic horror alongside the humans?" Voss looked at the sensor display, at the approaching darkness, at the impossible threat that should have been nothing more than myth and legend. "Yes," he said. "Yes, we are. Because the humans were right. They have been right this whole time. And if they manage to prepare for this, if they manage to build a fleet capable of standing against the Devourers, then by the 3 moons we are going to stand with them." The human fleet hung in orbit, silent and waiting. 2,783 ships, 10 years of preparation, 10 years of humanity doing what humanity did best, getting ready to punch above their weight class. Voss activated the emergency broadcast system, transmitting to every council member, every species, every world. "This is Commander Voss Talon," he said, his voice steady despite the fear churning in his gut. "I am issuing a priority alpha alert. The Council is now at war. Our enemy is designated as the Devourers. They are ancient, they are powerful, and they are coming. All military forces are to report to their stations immediately. All civilian populations are to begin evacuation procedures. Yen 2. All council members, I say this, we are not alone in this fight. Humanity has returned, and they brought an army." He paused, thinking about Admiral Voles's words, about the certainty in her voice. "The humans spent 10 years getting ready for this," Voss continued. 10 years preparing. 10 years building. 10 years turning themselves into the weapon we are going to need. So here's what we are going to do. We are going to follow their lead. We are going to fight. And we are going to show these Devourers exactly why you should never underestimate the younger races. The transmission ended. In the darkness beyond the frontier, something ancient stirred. Something hungry. Something that had consumed countless civilizations across countless millennia. But for the first time in its very long existence, that something was about to learn a very important lesson. Humans remembered. Humans prepared. And humans really hated being told they couldn't win. The war was coming. And the galaxy would never be the same. The war room on Station Omega had never been this crowded. Voss looked around at the assembled representatives from every council species, all talking at once, all demanding answers, all varying degrees of terrified. "Order." Chancellor Brix's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "I will have order, or I will have you all removed." As the room quieted, but the tension remained thick enough to cut with a knife. "Now then," Brix continued, his 6 eyes sweeping across the assembly. "I believe we all saw the sensor data. Admiral Voles, perhaps you could explain exactly what we are facing?" Kira Voles stood at the front of the room, looking remarkably calm considering she was about to describe the end of civilization as they knew it. Behind her, a massive holographic display showed the approaching entity. "What you are looking at," Voles began, "is what we have designated as Devourer Prime. It's approximately the size of Jupiter. Current scans suggest it's not actually solid matter, but rather a collection of billions of smaller organisms acting as a collective intelligence. Think of it like a swarm. Except each individual is the size of a battleship. By the void-breathed Ambassador Trell of the Vaxian Empire. How do we fight something like that?" "With extreme prejudice," Voles replied, a hint of dark humor in her voice. "And a lot of really big guns. But here's the good news. It's not invincible. We have analyzed the architect's records, and we found their weakness. Which is, demanded General Court, the military commander of the hegemony forces. Energy coherence, Voles said. The swarm maintains its collective intelligence through a quantum entanglement network. Break that network, disrupt the signal, and the individual organisms become just that. Individual. Stupid. Easy to kill. She tapped a control, and the display changed, showing a simulation of the human fleet engaging the devourer swarm. The problem, Voles continued, is that the network is protected by a massive energy field. We need to punch through that field, get close enough to deploy disruption bombs, and hold the line long enough for them to do their work. How long is long enough? Voss asked. 47 minutes, Voles said. Give or take. The bombs need time to saturate the quantum field. During that time, we will be dealing with every single organism in that swarm trying to kill us. The room erupted in shouting again. Silence, Brix commanded. Admiral, what are our odds of success? Voles was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke, her voice was steady. Honestly? About 30%. Maybe 40 if everything goes perfectly. But here's the thing. If we don't try, our odds are 0. The Devourers will consume this galaxy just like they consumed the Architect's galaxy and probably dozens of others before that. So yeah, the odds suck. But they are better than nothing. 30%, General Court repeated, his scales rippling with agitation. You are asking us to commit our entire military to a battle we will probably lose? Yes, Voles said simply. Because the alternative is sitting here waiting to die. And I don't know about you, General, but I didn't spend 10 years building the most advanced fleet in human history just to give up without a fight. Voss found himself standing. The Admiral is right. We have no choice. If we run, where would we even go? The Devourers will follow. They will consume every world, every station, every ship. At least this way we control the battlefield. We choose where to make our stand. Well said, Commander, Brix acknowledged. Very well. The Council votes now. All in favor of mobilizing for combat? One by one, hands, tentacles, and various other appendages rose. It wasn't unanimous. Some species abstained, probably already planning their retreat. But the majority held firm. The motion passes, Brix declared. Admiral Voles, you have operational command. Use it wisely. Over the next 3 weeks, the galaxy transformed into one massive war machine. Every shipyard operated at maximum capacity. Every factory retooled to produce weapons and ammunition. Every able-bodied citizen was either training for combat or supporting those who were. Voss spent most of his time coordinating with various fleet elements, but he made a point of visiting the human flagship, the Defiant Resolution, at least once a week. He needed to understand how the humans thought, how they prepared, how they could remain so calm in the face of almost certain death. Commander Talon, Admiral Voles greeted him as he stepped onto the bridge of her ship. Welcome aboard. Come to check on your allies. Something like that, Voss admitted. I wanted to see your operation firsthand. If we are going to fight together, I should understand how you work. Voles smiled. Fair enough. Lieutenant Hayes, give the commander a tour of our tactical systems. Lieutenant Emma Hayes was young, enthusiastic, and talked at approximately 3 times the speed of normal conversation. So this is our primary weapons control, she explained, gesturing at a dizzying array of displays. We have got plasma cannons, railguns, missile batteries, and something we are calling the Horizon Breaker. That's classified, but let's just say it makes very large things become very small things very quickly. Voss tried to keep up, his head spinning. How do you manage all of this? The complexity is staggering. Oh, that's the fun part, Hayes grinned. We don't. Not manually, anyway. We have got AI assistants for targeting and coordination, but humans handle strategy and tactics. Computers handle the math. Works pretty well, actually. AI? Voss felt a chill. The Council banned artificial intelligence research 2,000 years ago, after the machine uprising. Yeah, we heard about that, Hayes said. Sounds rough. But see, we learned from your mistakes. Our AI systems are air-gapped, non-networked, and completely subordinate to human command. They can't go rogue because they literally can't communicate with each other. Each one is isolated, running on separate hardware, with kill switches built into their core programming. That seems risky. Life is risky, Commander. Sitting in your bunk is risky. At least this way, the risk comes with massive computational advantages. Voss couldn't argue with that logic, even if it made him uncomfortable. The tour continued, and with each new system Hayes showed him, Voss became more impressed and more terrified. The humans hadn't just built a fleet. They'd built a technological marvel. Every ship was a testament to human ingenuity, stubbornness, and that peculiar brand of insanity that made them simultaneously brilliant and dangerous. Admiral, a voice called out from the communications station. We are receiving a transmission from the frontier outposts. The Devourers have entered the detection grid. The bridge went silent. Vols walked calmly to her command chair and sat down. Time to contact. 42 hours at current speed. Ma-am. Good. That gives us time to get into position. Lieutenant Hayes, signal the fleet. All ships to rally Point Gamma. Commander Talon, I suggest you return to Station Omega and coordinate with your forces. The real work is about to begin. Voss nodded and headed for the airlock, but he paused at the doorway. Admiral, that 30% chance of success. Did you really mean that? Vols looked at him, and for just a moment he saw past the military facade to the woman beneath. She was scared. Of course she was. Anyone with sense would be. Honestly, Commander, I pulled that number out of thin air to keep morale up. Our actual odds are probably closer to 15%. But here's the thing about humans. We have beaten worse odds. We have survived when we shouldn't have. We have thrived in environments that should have killed us. So yeah, 15% might not sound great, but it's not zero. And as long as it's not zero, we have got a shot. 42 hours later, Voss stood on the bridge of the Council flagship Unity's Pride, watching as the combined fleet took up position. 3,118 ships. The largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. It still looked pitifully small compared to what was coming. Sensors are picking up the vanguard, reported. Distance, 2 million kilometers and closing. Visual, Voss ordered. The main screen flickered, and there they were, the Devourers. At this distance, they looked like a dark cloud, a roiling mass of shadows that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. As Voss watched, the cloud began to take shape, individual organisms separating from the mass like cells dividing. Each one was massive. Each one was armed. And there were billions of them. By the ancestors, whispered. How are we supposed to fight that? Together, Voss said firmly. We fight together. Open a channel to all ships. Let them hear this. He waited for Pax to give him the signal, then spoke. This is Commander Voss Talon to all Council and human forces. I'm not going to lie to you. What we are facing is terrifying. It's massive. It's powerful. And yes, we might die today. But here's what I know. Every species in this fleet has survived the impossible. We have faced extinction events, wars, plagues, disasters that should have wiped us out. And yet, here we are. Still fighting. Still standing. Still refusing to quit. He paused, gathering his thoughts. The Devourers think we are just another meal, another civilization to consume and forget. They have done this before. Countless times across countless ages. But they have never faced us. They have never faced a galaxy united. They have never faced humans who spent a decade preparing for this exact moment. So here's what we are going to do. We are going to show them that this galaxy doesn't go quietly. We are going to show them that young civilizations have teeth. And we are going to send them back to whatever dark corner of space they came from with a message. We are not prey. We are not victims. We are survivors. And today we survive together. The channel erupted with cheers, roars, and various species-specific sounds of approval. All ships reporting ready, sir, Pax said, his voice steadier than before. Admiral Vols? Voss called out on the command frequency. Ready when you are, Commander. Vols's voice came back, calm and collected. Remember the plan. We hit them hard, we hit them fast, and we don't stop until those disruption bombs are deployed. Understood. All ships, weapons free. Engage on my mark. The Devourer swarm was close now, so close Voss could make out individual organisms. They looked like crosses between insects and machines, with multiple limbs, glowing energy cores, and what appeared to be organic weapons grafted onto their bodies. Mark. Voss shouted. The galaxy erupted in fire. 3,000 ships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma bolts, missiles, energy beams, and exotic weapons Voss didn't even have names for all converged on the Devourer swarm. The void lit up like a newborn star, explosions blooming across space in a deadly fireworks display, and the Devourers fired back. The first wave of return fire hit the fleet like a hammer. Ships exploded. Shields failed. Voss watched in horror as a Kelvar destroyer simply ceased to exist, vaporized by a beam of pure darkness. Shields at 60%. Pax shouted over the alarms. We have lost 30 ships in the first exchange. Hold the line. Voss commanded. All ships focus fire on the vanguard. Create an opening for the human assault teams. The human fleet was moving, Voss realized. While the Council ships provided covering fire, the human vessels were advancing through the chaos with impossible precision. They moved like dancers, weaving between enemy fire, their own weapons creating corridors of destruction. Admiral Vols is requesting a firing corridor, reported. Bearing 273 by 145. All ships, concentrate fire on that vector. Give the humans their corridor. The Council fleet responded, pouring everything they had into the designated area. The Devourers reeled, their formation breaking as ships punched through their lines. Human assault fleet has breached the perimeter. Pax called out. They are deploying the disruption bombs now. Time to saturation. Voss demanded. 47 minutes, sir. Exactly as Admiral Vols predicted. 47 minutes. They just had to survive 47 minutes. The Devourers seemed to realize what was happening. Their attack intensified, the swarm converging on the human ships with terrifying focus. Voss watched as wave after wave of organisms threw themselves at the human line, sacrificing themselves in an attempt to stop the bombs. But the humans held. Every ship that fell was immediately replaced by another. Every gap in their formation was filled. They fought with a desperate, brilliant efficiency that took Voss's breath away. Shields at 30%. Pax warned. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12. Reroute power from non-essential systems, Voss ordered. And get me damage control teams to those breaches now. Minutes ticked by. Then 10. Then 20. Ships were dying. Voss watched the casualty reports scroll across his screen, each number representing hundreds or thousands of lives. Council ships. Human ships. It didn't matter. They were all bleeding. All dying. All buying time with their lives. 30 minutes to saturation, Pax reported. But sir, we have lost over 400 ships. The fleet is barely holding together. Voss looked at the tactical display. Pax was right. Their formation was in tatters. Ships were scattered across the battlefield, fighting isolated actions against impossible odds. Admiral Vols, Voss called out. Status of the bombs. Charging as planned, Vols replied, and Voss could hear the strain in her voice. But we are taking heavy casualties. I have lost 23 ships in the last 5 minutes alone. Commander, I don't know if we can hold for another 17 minutes. You have to, Voss said. We all have to. There's no other option. I know. Haze. Reroute power from life support to shields. We don't need to breathe if we are dead anyway. The battle raged on. Time became meaningless. There was only fire and death and the desperate, clawing need to survive just one more minute. Just one more second. 10 minutes to saturation, Pax shouted. The devourer organism crashed into Unity's pride, tearing through the hull like paper. Alarms screamed. The ship shuddered. Voss grabbed onto his chair as the artificial gravity failed, sending debris floating through the bridge. The emergency power to engines. Ree yelled, "Get us clear of that thing." The ship lurched, pulling away from the devourer even as it tried to burrow deeper. Voss saw crew members fighting hand to hand with the creature in the corridors, using whatever weapons they could find. 5 minutes. Pax screamed. The devourers were going berserk now, throwing everything they had at the fleet. It was as if they knew, somehow, that their time was running out. 2 minutes. Voss looked at the tactical display one last time. The fleet was shattered. Over 1,000 ships destroyed. Thousands more damaged. But they were still here, still fighting. 1 minute. All ships. Volz's voice cut through the chaos. Brace for quantum disruption. This is going to get weird. The disruption bombs detonated. Voss couldn't really describe what happened next. Reality seemed to ripple, like a stone dropped in water. The quantum field surrounding the devourer swarm flickered, wavered, and then shattered. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The swarm, which had moved with such terrifying coordination, suddenly fell apart. Individual organisms drifted aimlessly, their collective intelligence severed. Some fired weapons at random. Others collided with each other. A few simply shut down, floating dead in space. It worked, Ree breathed. By the void, it actually worked. All ships, target the disoriented organisms. Voss commanded. Don't give them time to adapt. What followed was less a battle and more an execution. The devourers, stripped of their intelligence, were little more than mindless drones. The combined fleet tore through them with brutal efficiency. Within an hour, it was over. The once mighty swarm was reduced to debris floating in the void. Billions of organisms destroyed, an ancient threat ended. Voss slumped in his chair, exhausted beyond measure. "A casualty report," he said quietly. Pax worked at his console for a moment, then looked up, his face grim. Final count shows 1,247 ships destroyed, another 800 damaged beyond immediate repair. Estimated crew casualties at 370,000. 370,000 lives. Gone. The price of survival. And the devourers? Voss asked. Total annihilation, sir. There's nothing left. Whenever that thing was, it's not coming back. Open a channel to Admiral Volz. A moment later, Kira Volz's face appeared on the screen. She looked terrible. Burn marks on her face. Blood on her uniform. But she was smiling. "We did it, Commander," she said. "We actually did it." "Yes," Voss agreed. "We did. At great cost, but we did." "All victories come at a cost," Volz replied. "The question is whether the cost was worth it. And in this case, I'd say yes. We saved the galaxy." "That's worth something," Voss nodded. "What happens now, Admiral? With your fleet? With humanity?" Volz was quiet for a moment, considering the question. "Now?" she said finally. "Now we rebuild. We mourn our dead. We learn from this. And we make damn sure that if anything else comes crawling out of the dark, we are ready for it. The humans aren't going anywhere, Commander. We are part of this galaxy now, for better or worse." "I think," Voss said slowly, "that might be the best news I have heard all day." 3 months later, Voss stood in the rebuilt conference room on Station Omega, watching, as the Council formally inducted humanity as a full member species with all rights and privileges. Admiral Volz, now promoted to Fleet Admiral and designated as humanity's official representative, stood at the podium accepting the honor. "Thank you," she said simply. It's been a hell of a ride. We started as the crazy newcomers nobody wanted around. We started wars. We broke protocols. We drove you all absolutely insane with our complete disregard for established procedures. Laughter rippled through the assembly. But when it mattered, Voles continued, her voice growing serious. When the real test came, we stood together. Not as separate species. Not as humans and council, but as one galaxy. One people. United against a common threat. That's something worth remembering. Worth preserving. She paused, looking out at the assembled representatives. The universe is big, she said. And it's full of dangers we can't even imagine. But it's also full of allies, friends, people willing to stand beside you when everything goes to hell. So here's my promise to the Council. Humanity will never abandon you. We will never run when things get tough. We will stand with you, fight with you, probably drive you crazy with our weird human stuff. But we will be here. Always. The applause was thunderous. Later, Voss found Voles on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Quite a speech, he said, moving to stand beside her. Thanks, Voles replied. I meant every word. Well, except the part about not running. If something worse than the Devourers shows up, I'm definitely running. Just not alone. Voss laughed. Fair enough. Tell me something, Admiral. When you first intercepted that transmission 10 years ago, did you really think you could win? Honestly? Voles was quiet for a long moment. No, she admitted finally. I thought we were all going to die. I thought the best we could hope for was to take some of them with us. But humans have this weird quirk. Even when we know we are going to lose, we fight anyway. Not because we are brave. It's not because we are stupid, but because the alternative is giving up. And giving up just isn't in our nature. That's not a quirk, Voss said gently. That's called courage. Maybe, Voles shrugged. Or maybe it's just stubbornness. Hard to tell sometimes. Either way, it worked. We are still here. The galaxy is still here. And somewhere out there, the Devourers are learning a very important lesson. Which is? Voles smiled. That dangerous, brilliant smile that Voss had come to recognize as uniquely human. Don't mess with a galaxy that has humans in it. Because we remember. We prepare. And we absolutely, positively refuse to quit. No matter what the odds say. No matter how impossible things look. We just keep fighting. Keep pushing forward. Keep being the stubborn, crazy, absolutely ridiculous species that we are. Voss looked out at the stars, at the vast expanse of space that they'd managed to save, at the impossible victory they'd achieved together. You know what, Admiral? He said. I think the galaxy is better for having humans in it. But even if you do drive us all completely insane. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me, Voles laughed. Come on. Let's get a drink. I think we have earned it. As they walked away from the observation deck, Voss couldn't help but smile. The humans had been silent for 10 years, preparing for a war nobody else believed was coming. And when they returned, they'd brought hope with them, a chance for survival, a future. The galaxy would never be the same. But that was okay, because change, as terrifying as it could be, also brought opportunity, great growth, progress. And if there was one thing Voss had learned from humanity, it was that sometimes the best way forward was to embrace the chaos, trust in your allies, and face the darkness with absolute determination and a healthy dose of sarcastic humor. The stars were still full of mysteries, still full of dangers, but they were also full of possibilities. And for the first time in a very long time, Voss felt genuinely optimistic about the future. Even if that future definitely included more crazy